Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about what a motif is and how you identify one in a text, we are going to extend our learning into how do we use motifs to identify a theme in a text. And that's really the point of a motif. A motif only matters if it is helping the reader identify the central message of the text. And so let's kind of look at this slide and just take it from the top here. When we notice a motif and track it across a text, we can then use it to articulate the theme of a text. Let's review what a theme is. A theme is the central message of a text. It's what the author wants the reader to understand after reading. And so this is really important. Since it is a message, it's expressed as a sentence, never just one word. So a theme is never love or strength or courage or any of those big one-word, buzzwords that we associate with text. Those are topics. A theme is the author's position on that topic. So understand this. This is a very common mistake for high school students, but I promise you, theme is never just one word. It's a complete sentence, and we're going to form a complete sentence. We're going to form a theme in complete sentences today, based off of the motifs that we see in the texts we've been reading. So, this is how we turn a motif into a theme. First, you notice your motif. Then you track that motif across the text. Where are all the places it occurs? Is the pattern always exactly the same? Is the pattern ever broken? Where do you see an author repeating something? It could be an item, it could be an action, it could be a sound, it could be a color. What do you see being repeated throughout the text? And then we have to go a step further and ask ourselves, and this one is a little bit harder to identify, but what does the motif represent or mean? So what's the deeper meaning behind that item, that motif? We're going to ask ourselves, what does insert the name of the text say about insert the motif? So like, for example, what does Animal Farm say about being selfish and not caring for my fellow countrymen through the use of Molly getting sugar cubes and ribbons in her hair? And that is how you insert a motif's meaning. So then we'll have a draft. I'm going to give you a couple really solid examples here of exactly what I'm looking for. So earlier in the class, I asked you to read a poem called I Invite My Parents to a Dinner Party by Chen Chen. And one of the motifs there, I don't know if you noticed this, hopefully you did, is that he repeated in several stanzas a reference to the movie Home Alone. And that's also a literary allusion. So if you haven't seen Home Alone, then this is a little bit harder to recognize as a motif. But surely if you read it, you noticed that he said, I'm the kid in Home Alone several times. So the meaning there, if we're digging a little bit deeper, would be that nobody's home to care about or to understand him. That's what the movie Home Alone is about, right? The kid, Kevin, he got left home alone. Nobody was home to take care of him. And so that is how the poet, Chen Chen, is feeling in that same room with his parents as he brings home his partner to a dinner party. And so the theme is, this should not say Animal Farm, so ignore that because I'm not going to reshoot this video. The theme is, based on that motif, sometimes those closest to us are not the ones who truly understand us. And that is one of the major themes in I Invite My Parents to a Dinner Party. Let's look at another example. In the Disney Pixar short the Disney Pixar, that doesn't make sense. The Pixar short that I asked you to watch, the motif that was repeated was water and waves. That was one of several motifs. And so the little bird would go out into the water and he would get scared and a big wave would kind of come take him away. That happened a few times. And then as the short continued, he sort of made amends with that water. Initially, though, it was something new. It was something scary. Eventually, he got used to it and he realized that the water was not his enemy, but actually his friend in helping him find whatever it was he was trying to eat off the beach. So therefore, the theme is, proven by the motif, the first time you try something, it can seem scary, but you will eventually get the hang of it. And now let's do an example from Animal Farm. So I mentioned earlier that the singing of the song Beasts of England is something that is repeated. And because Orwell repeats that so many times, we have to notice that that's something that he's trying to use to send us a deeper message. And that message would, of course, be brainwashing and propaganda, right? We know that any kind of like pledge or anthem is, in fact, a method of propaganda. And so whenever they sing it, that is, that's used to kind of get in their heads and then have them pledge their loyalty or allegiance to Animal Farm. And so the theme that we get from that motif is those who choose not to educate themselves can easily be controlled by the media. Basically, stupid people are easy to control is one of the themes in Animal Farm, and that's used through the repetition of the singing of Beasts of England. Okay, so now you're going to go back to the hyperdoc and you are going to find 2 additional examples of motif from Animal Farm. And then I want you to assign a meaning. What's the deeper meaning of that motif? And then finally, give me a complete sentence. What is Animal Farm really saying about this topic? What's the real message about this that Orwell was trying to deliver? And that's when you will have a theme statement.